So today I'm going to talk about double standards and gender stereotypes in society, and I'm going to begin my speech with a little story that my friend told me. So my friend works at a grocery store, right, and she says that one day this father and his little boy come up to the register, and the dad's buying like a packet of beer and some cigarettes and stuff like that. And that the little boy, who's like 5 or 6, he kind of runs up to the cash register and he puts like a drawing pad on the register. And his dad goes, "What is this?" And the little boy's like, "Oh, I ran out of paper to draw on at home." And so the dad says, "I'm not going to pay for that. I already told you to stop drawing things and painting things like a little girl." And my friend was like, in shock, because the dad was so harsh, and she says, "You know what, if you don't want to pay for it, like, don't worry, I'll take care of it." And so she gives the little boy the drawing pad, the dad pays for his things, and they walk out. Well, 15 minutes later or so, I think she said she was going outside to go on her break for work, and that she saw the drawing pad on the floor, like, all ripped up. And she's like, my heart was broken. And when she told me, I felt really bad too, because I felt so sad for the little boy, because he probably was really interested in like developing his artistic talents, but his dad didn't let him because of gender stereotypes. And that's really what I want to talk about today, are gender stereotypes and double standards, because a lot of people think that these are just myths and know that, we've made so much movement forward in this area that, both males and females are equal, but they're really not. And I'm going to show you how gender and double standards affects society even till this day and in all levels and all aspects. So one thing before I go to my main point, I want to really clear up the difference between gender and sex. Gender is not the same as sex. Sex is whether you're a male or a female. It is your anatomy. It's the physiological parts. So I hate to be crude, but basically what sex is, whether you have a vagina or you have a penis. That's it. And gender is the non-physiological aspects of being male or female. It's the cultural expectations of whether, if you're male, are you masculine? If you're female, are you feminine? And a gender role is a set of behaviors socially defined as appropriate for yourself, whether you're a guy or a girl. And what are stereotypes? Stereotypes are socially shared beliefs that certain qualities can be assigned to individuals based on national origin, social class, religion, or in our case today, gender. And double standards are a moral or ethical code that applies more strictly to one group than to the other. And in our case, double standards of sexual behavior usually permits greater sexual freedom for men than for women, and it can kind of be extended to even like, if you're a guy, like, can you paint pictures like a little boy? If you're a girl, can you play with toy cars and such things like that? And so my first point is how double standards and gender stereotypes are initiated in early childhood. So where do these stereotypes come from? How do they start? Who starts them? And the unequal treatment of men and women can be traced back all the way to how you're treated in different environments since you're like a toddler, since you're, a baby. And gender differences towards infant boys and girls are usually a direct result of distinct behaviors, different attitudes, and different expectations for baby girls or baby boys. So for example, infant boys are given like toy cars, they're given like sports like baseball bats, t-ball bats, things like that, whereas little girls are given a doll to play with or a toy kitchen. Like little boys usually aren't given dolls to play with, little girls usually aren't given cars to play with. And then this later evolves into, if you're a guy, you might grow up to be a race car driver or a cop or a football player. And if you're a girl, you're expected to, of course, be a mother, a wife, or if you actually get a profession, you go into like nursing or teaching and stuff like that. And then, so these are how these stereotypes are maintained through child rearing practices, as I said, like how you're brought up, and then the toys and the clothing that you're second point, I'm going to talk about a few social experiments that actually prove that these gender stereotypes are real. So in 1975, these two psychologists, Williams and Bennett, they took a survey and they asked like different people, like characterize a man. And men were usually characterized as aggressive, courageous, dominant, independent, masculine, tough, whereas women were characterized as affectionate, dependent, emotional, gentle, nagging, sensitive, submissive, and whiny. And that's not necessarily true, you know, just because you're a guy doesn't mean you're aggressive, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't be dominant or independent, and so forth, and things like that. And then in 1991, there was this really cool experiment done at UC Davis, and it was really cool because they had like this little boy and this little girl in this classroom, and the students in that classroom had to like they had to actually characterize the little boy and the little girl as they watched him play. And so they had this list. So for Brandon, which was the little boy, they characterized Brandon as like, masculine, dominant, stuff like that. They characterized Rachel as like gentle and stuff. And what happened is that Brandon was actually Rachel in a dress, and Rachel was actually Brandon in an overall. So that just goes to show how much stereotypes. And then this is seen in education, in the workplace, and stuff like that. And just remember, never let social expectations and genders define who you are. Thanks.